Coming to you live from the Business RadioX studio, it's Franchise Marketing Radio, brought to you by IDS, an award-winning digital marketing agency that delivers integrated marketing solutions for franchisors, franchisees, and franchise development teams. Learn why over 75 brands depend on IDS's team of dedicated marketers and client service professionals to deliver a strong ROI on their marketing investment. Go to idsfranchisemarketing.com for a complimentary digital audit and consultation.
Welcome back to Franchise Marketing Radio. I'm your host, Rob Ganley, and today I have with me Tara Riley. She's the president of Fresh Coat Painters. Welcome to the show, Tara.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
You're welcome. It's great to have you. So tell us a little bit about how you wound up at Fresh Coat. I know there's a little story there with your history and background in franchising, but tell us a little bit about that and a little bit about your vision for the future.
Absolutely. I think, and this is probably true of a lot of people in franchising. I certainly, if you'd asked me when I was 15 years old, what did I want to be? Franchise professional didn't roll off my tongue, In fact, when I was that age, I often would say, I don't know anything but business, quite honestly. But ironically, I went to work for McDonald's franchisee when I was in high school. And, really, because my friends were there, it was flexible. But what I didn't know is I was already in franchising. And I ended up staying on the franchisee side for a few years. I went to school, I went to college, and, realized that maybe I didn't really want to be a veterinarian or an engineer. And meanwhile, I was getting promoted and I got the opportunity to run a store and get some development on that side. And I realized I really love this business thing, right? So good thing is that I was at Texas A&M University. And thank God they have a great business school too, because that's what I ended up graduating in eventually. And I had a great mentor, you mentioned this, at that time, who kept telling me, you should go to work for McDonald's Corporation. So I was working for franchisees at the time. So things evolved, and I actually did end up making that leap over to McDonald's Corp, and I ended up in franchise support. And that's when I really fell in love with franchising. Really loved coaching, helping people achieve what they wanted to. You would think, hey, McDonald's, a lot of people think of fast food and they think of these guys that own hundreds of stores. And really at McDonald's, it's really an owner-operator model. When I was there, I think the average number of stores people had was 5.7. So they were really, small to medium-sized business owners. And not only did I fall in love with franchising, but I also fell in love with the idea of how do you scale? How do you achieve out of the business to get that quality of life and balance with profitability? And so there was a lot of aspects of it. And it was really just a great training ground for me over the years. And from there, I could have stayed. I loved McDonald's. It was really a great development and learning opportunity. But I will tell you that as I kept getting promoted, I realized I was getting further away from what I really loved, which was working directly with franchise owners. And so an opportunity came for me to jump into what was then a young brand, Sport Clips. So a lot of people are familiar with Gordon Logan and Sport Clips. And it was fairly small at that time, 120 stores. I think they're well over 2,000 now, but it was great because at that moment they had not really evolved their franchise coaching model. So I got the opportunity to come in and really create that and really lay the foundations for that, which I love. I love, organizational development and creating things like that. I ended up from there kind of careening into, now those were both retail. I ended up in home services. I got an opportunity with an even smaller brand to do the same thing. Let's build this coaching model. Let's figure out how we support franchise owners so they can be profitable and successful. And so then I got the opportunity, and I was with Enhanced Wood Renewal for a short period of time. And they were an absolutely, I fell in love with the idea of home service models. Anyway, fast forward a little bit, I bounced around, but the opportunity came up for me to get to Fresh Coat as president. And so that fulfilled a dream of mine, the ability to lead a brand, but also the fact that it was in the home services space. I always tell prospective franchises of our system is that you have to love the outcome of what we do, first of all. If you've got to want to know, you got to like the business, right? We always say there's 3 questions you got to answer if you're going into franchising, right? Are going to buy or you're going to invest in franchising. Are you ready to own your own business? Do you like the industry? And so do you like the outcomes? And then do you trust and like us, right? So you got to be able to answer yes to all three of those for you to be able to say yes to joining, Fresh Code. So anyway, I love the home services. I love the model. I love the expansiveness of it. I all those years in retail, it was fun. It was fun to see how much capacity and scaling can we pump out of a four walls environment. But what was fun about home services is that just immense ability of it to scale. And because it's just fun. And I just have always liked the trades and home services. So anyway, that is how I came to be. I was blessed about 8 years ago to get this opportunity, and it's been a fun ride. Really have enjoyed helping Fresh Code owners grow and scale as well. So
yeah. No, I mean, to start with McDonald's, I think even the novice franchise person that just knows, okay, franchise McDonald's franchise, like they just kind of equate the two.
Oh, yeah.
So clearly a pioneer. Were they the first official franchise, or was there a different? I think they're one of the first official. But I mean, to learn, do you know that answer?
No, I mean, I think people say there's all kinds of different things in the history of franchising. McDonald's was certainly one of the first really giant, growth folks in the food, in the fast food service, but there were fast food companies well before. I think White Castle started in 21. I think, but it, they, for a while, certainly was the largest. And I think it had a really interesting foundation. McDonald's foundation was a little different than a lot of the other chains. And so it was really well.
So you learned a lot. You learned a lot. That was I figured there's some ingredients to that opportunity that really you took with you as you've gone through it. And same with Sports Clips and some of these other iconic brands. So you learn a lot, and then you get the chance to help the emerging brands, right?
Yeah.
So Fresh Code, let's talk about Fresh Code. So you as president, that's a pretty big job, and you're representing a brand. So tell me a little bit about the brand. I hear different things when I do interview home services brands. And I'm just wondering how when I think of the brand Fresh Code, the name, the logo, the approach, the culture, like what in your mind as the president, what is it that you're conveying there?
Obviously, we are trying to convey professionalism in a trade that has a tendency to be dominated by local independence, right? It's a fragmented industry. And so our first thing is professionalism and certainty, that what you're getting, what to expect, helping, when we talk about our, whether it's our we're primarily residential, but, we try to position ourselves from the homeowner side. Look, we don't want to disrupt your life for 3 weeks. We want to get in, give you certainty. We're going to start on this day. We're going to end on that date. Those are some of the things that hallmark Fresh Code. It's just, we have quoting systems that allow us to be able to know. We know how many hours it's going to take. We know exactly how many people we can apply to it. We can work with our owners to make sure that our homeowners and our commercial space, we're able to convey this professionally. We know what we're doing. We understand not only the labor side of it, but we understand the material side of it, so that we give you a professional appearance, right?
Yeah. Painting done right.
Painting done right. Exactly.
Exactly. Let's be real clear about that, right? Because it's such a problem in the home services world, just getting that done. So tell me a little bit about, you had mentioned the idea of helping. You liked home services because, and I think I resonated when you said this, because of all the different ways that you can grow the business.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. So we have homeowners, or not homeowners, we have local owners, right? And your goal, obviously, as a brand president, is to see success in every location. Tell me, how important is it to provide that sort of, I guess, that moving bar that's always saying we can go further? So the first time we have a franchisee that might hit the 7-figure mark, or might hit multiple millions, or whatever those thresholds are, how important is that idea of continuing to see your top franchisee get bigger, right? Obviously, averages all being better, but is that something you look at? Or is it more just, everybody kind of hitting that sort of goal of their own to achieve what they're looking for in the brand for themselves? Or are you always looking, how can we move the needle? How can we get someone even more successful? And then does that bring everybody up? Does that kind of increase the motivation of everybody else? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I think there's two things you said in there, and I think they're both important. I think the first most important thing is people, need to achieve what they want out of the business. I think that's one of the beauties of franchising. And I think that's the first most important hallmark of success is, are you achieving what you wanted out of the business? And that's usually some combination of quality of life combined with income, right? The beauty of home services and especially, Fresh Coat is there's some flexibility there to create you get to build this business the way you want. Now, I will tell you that, yes, I think for long-term health of a business, if you really want long-term health in your business, if you want long-term quality of life, scaling is actually the way to get there. A lot of people think, well, I just want to kind of do this at this small level, and that's fine. But really, if you want the ability to walk away from a business for 3 weeks, go on vacation, and the business continues to, create income for you and take care of customers just like as if you were there, that's a scaled business. That's a different level of business. And for us and I think for a lot of the owners that come in, that's what they're really looking for. So now for us, it's important for us to help the top of the market continue to grow and scale. I've worked, as we mentioned, I've worked in a lot of different franchise concepts. And, what I benefited from that was I learned a lot of things. I learned good and bad. And I've had the opportunity through the IFA and different things to see all kinds of meet different people and see all kinds of different franchises, organizations that are at different levels. But one thing that struck me was that my job is to make sure that we're ahead of our top franchise owner, that we're there to help them, whoever's, whatever their star they're reaching for, that next threshold, that we're not letting them pioneer that and we'll follow along and say, oh, well, what did you learn? I think it's our job to partner and as the part of the brand is to make sure that we've laid the groundwork for them to achieve that. Whether that means us going outside of the brand, we spend time with the Painting Contractors Association, which is our trade industry, bastion. And I'll spend time, outside of Fresh Coat looking at people who are running 8 and 9 figure businesses in painting, right? And we're not there yet, but the thing is, what can we learn from the businesses that have scaled to that level to bring back into our organization to say, okay, first of all, there's efficiencies there that we can employ right now that are going to help our owners be more profitable and have better quality of life, which is what we're shooting for, right? And most important, take care of our customers, right? That reputation. What's the ultimate marketing thing? Brand, right? Which is, once was described to me as it's how people think and feel about you, even if they've never traded with you yet, And so that reputation, you asked about my vision. I said, I like to say, we're trying to build an iconic brand. Now, you kind of sit up and go, wow, you think about iconic brands out there like a McDonald's, Apple, these huge brands and say, boy, Tara, that's tall order, right? To get to an iconic brand. I said, but, and I thought to myself, am I being too aspirational? But I thought, no, because when you think of what it takes to be an iconic brand, you want to be known, you want to be trusted, and you want to be loved. That starts at the local level. I tell franchise owners that, and prospects, said, you do this as soon as you sign on, you're becoming iconic. You're going to be iconic in your family. You're going to you're going to make this brand iconic in your social circles. You'll make the brand iconic in your market. And when all of our franchise owners are pulling that same direction and we continue to expand the markets in, all of a sudden, one day you're there, right? And to me, that's the journey that takes us there. And it's one customer at a time, but, that's all we can do. So I'm sorry, I got off on a tangent, but
no, that's perfect. That's exactly, that what you're describing is something that investing in a franchise starts with. Yeah. Whether it's an emerging brand or what we would call an iconic brand that you instantly identify, like Apple, you would think quality. I think McDonald's, I think value and speed and convenience. But so those are brands that have successfully believe what they wanted, conveyed the impact they wanted. But I think that does start with the very first owner. It starts with the when you sit down and you plan the branding, right? The look and the feel that you're conveying before it actually is felt by anyone else. You're thinking of it. And so I think it's a really powerful tool that most don't realize they have in their arsenal when they start a business as a franchisee. So that's an amazing revelation. So we were just talking about, having those opportunities where the franchise owner can kind of decide where they start, or not where they start, what kind of business they build. Is it going to be super big? Is it going to be in the middle? But always having those top franchisees set the pace. And that was interesting. So in order to do all that, in order to have the consistency that you guys have across every location, across every owner, that's obviously not an easy thing to accomplish.
Wow.
Tell me a little bit about the technology and the operational side of things I guess, again, you want folks to immediately identify these guys know painting. They get it done right. They're reliable, right? Those types of ideas.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about how you're working on with technology to enable that effect with the clients.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of ways that we work with technology. I mean, first of all, our quoting software, gives, our franchisees, first of all, even if they don't have 40 years of experience in the paint industry, they know what we would call the production rates, right? So that's built into our software. The software is designed, and this is our original software, saying, hey, if I'm out here and I'm going to do a quote, most independent painters, they're going to rely on knowledge. They walk in and they can eyeball it. They maybe take a measurement, but they know they're going to say, oh, this is going to take me X number of hours or days in their mind, right? And they come up with a quote. What we do is say, we take precise measurements. We know what the production rates are. This has been built over time, and we know that, hey, it's going to take X number of labor hours to do this type of work, whether it's an interior. 80% of what we do is walls and trim and ceilings. But then you're going to get decks, and you're going to get fences, and you're going to get, industrial ceilings. You're going to get different things. And the bottom line is estimating is all the same. So, that helps our franchise owners be experts in that. We certainly teach and train the basics of the industry. So one of the things that we do, and I think all, painting companies probably do, but we have tools, we have online now app-based LMSs that have, painting knowledge built into it. This really serves a couple of fold. One, it helps educate our franchise owners and their teams as they subsequently scale, right? But also it's an opportunity. I'm very committed to the trade and bettering the trade. And so we actually also have our painter advancement system, which is designed for us to help painters learn the trade better. One of my first hires when I got here was a gentleman by the name of Brian Santos. He's a 40-year painter, or fourth generation painter, and really loves education, understands the industry. So we brought Brian on, and he's been part of our training team. He's our director of education. So we incorporate, Brian's knowledge and the knowledge from, all over the PCA and different things. So anyway, you start thinking about this, and we were talking about technology the other day. Technology has evolved. First having technology. Our first quoting system was a spreadsheet and 3-part carbonless, right, with the production rates all built in. That evolved into technology, the software technologies I've talked to, and then now, we've recently invested heavily in the last, we've made a huge investment in upgrading that technology, because it's not just about that. It's really about the entire customer experience, right? We're marketing, we're a brand. So how do we make sure that there's a consistent customer experience? Go back to my McDonald's days. You talk about speed. One of the things I would hallmark McDonald's for was consistency. It may not be the best food all the time, but it should be a Big Mac. I've eaten Big Macs in almost every state of the union, plus across the pond. And amazingly, they pretty much taste the same. And that's a mark of consistency, right? Those world famous French fries, when they, right. But those are my favorite. But the thing is, technology helps us create a consistent brand. So now we have the ability from the time somebody's thinking about painting, or, whether it's our website technology to they say, ooh, let me inquire. Now I want a consistent experience for our customer. I want I want that. And I want that, certainty that, hey, when you're seeing solid communication, like, I put it, I put in a request for a quote, and I'm either, like, if it's a form fill, I get an immediate response. I can get this scheduled very easily. Look, that ease of use tells me hey, I am our wheelhouse client, right? When I see that, I know, then I believe my experience is going to be that much easier, right? Than when I start, when the whole process is easy. So we're using technology now. We're trying to integrate all of the technology to make sure that, from, soup to nuts, basically, that, the customer's experience can be formalized and standardized, so that FreshCode, if I've used FreshCode in, Connecticut and I move to Seattle, I should have, the same experience. So that's the number one. So especially on the, on the consumer side, I think those are the things that convey, confidence and competence, in the beginning, so. Yeah.
Now, I was just thinking, as you were explaining all that, just as thinking of a buyer, thinking of myself as a buyer, and also myself as a business person, there's a couple things there that, as a buyer, first of all, as you said, that experience all the way through starts to train me on what I should expect from you.
Right.
And that starts in the very beginning. But when someone can break down a recommendation and a proposal, and you understand how it's done, and it's done well, it's done accurately.
Right.
There's a level of trust that gets conveyed, is completely invisible. Like if I got a guy writing on a napkin saying he's looking up at the walls and, kind of guessing and I'll call you back later, I'll give you an estimate. That's different than someone who comes in with an iPad, who's seen it before, who has technology to guide him. You're getting accuracy.
Yeah.
And I think that for a buyer who doesn't know a lot about painting, which most wouldn't, unless they happen to be somebody that has that experience, right? But a lot of buyers aren't like that. So just that alone is an amazing idea. Just convey that as you're working with them early on, to trust them, right? That trust part. So that kind of pours into the idea of running a profitable business, right? That the other thing is that now I can have the confidence as a business owner. I really understand what goes into a project, how much time is invested, what the actual resources really are. And therefore, I know my margins really well, which I know it's constant focus for you guys. Without that, you really, revenue's nice, but if it doesn't trickle down to the bottom, what do we got? So I know that's important. And I know technology, if it's done right, that's what we all want to get from it.
Exactly.
So as we kind of keep on this discussion of technology, I'm going to pivot a little bit more over to the marketing side and just say, when I think of marketing and I think of what's going on the last, say, 20 years, things have rapidly increased, and that speed of change is increasing.
Yeah.
And so how do you take a business owner that, and again, I know that you have a recruiting process, and maybe we could talk about that a little bit, but I'm sure you're recruiting a lot of different types of folks from different backgrounds, and maybe they have certain qualities you look for. But when it comes to technology, digital marketing, certainly people in the trades, people we would say, more on the blue collar side of things, if they have that background, might not be on the background of technology, right? They might not have the background. So what would you consider to be the most important things that have to be there from a digital marketing or a technology related marketing side of things to get someone going and to keep them growing? What are those things?
Well, I think first of all, you have to have insights into your business. So from a marketing standpoint, obviously, you just opened up a box that has so many different things in it. It's like, oh, it's like Christmas. Which one do we want to talk about first? But marketing and technology. Digital marketing space has evolved. And you talk about a space that evolved and transitions and has been changing immensely. I can remember even back. Seems like 15 years ago, I still, when I worked for Enhance, we still required them to have a Yellow Pages ad. That got changed pretty quick, but, what's important, first of all, for the business owners coming in, most important thing still is taking care of the customer, right? Mm-hmm. We can have all the technology in the world, but if we can't take care of and do painting done right. If we can't get the, paint on the walls correctly and take care of the customer, that's where the reputation starts there. I will say that for our business owners coming in, one of the things we tell them immediately is that, there's all the fun bells and whistles and digital marketing, but honestly, the foundation of every solid business I've ever seen is still networking. It is still getting out there, being part of your community, building those relationships. This is a very relational business. I can tell you, it's been really eye-opening for us as we've really expanded into the B2B side. That's really relational. I mean, for us to build national accounts, it's really relationship and repeat referral business. That really is on the relationship side. So we very much encourage from right away networking, joining, whether it's BNI or Chamber of Commerce, service organizations, get involved in the networking list. We call it a list of 100. You're making, make a list of 100 people, and make sure they know you're going into business. So, I mean, that aspect of marketing hasn't changed. And I think the digital side of it is interesting. One of the fears I have is that sometimes, there's been times where we, think, oh, well, I can just flip a switch and that digital side is going to feed everything. And that, and there's been moments where it's been insane. It's been wonderful. In the beginning, when we were maybe first to market with that kind of stuff, we had a competitive advantage. Then people caught up, the industry caught up. Then we take a step ahead. But at the end of the day, I don't care what business you're running, you never want to have all your eggs in one basket. You need diversity to have, because God forbid something happened. I can tell you right now, what we're seeing in the digital space is that, the cost per lead of pay-per-click is just gone off the charts for a minute, and so if that was their number one dependency, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait a minute, so, one of the things we're focused on right now is just, going back, let's make sure, let's re-hit the basics. It was funny. We sat down as a team and said, okay, let's just for fun. We haven't done this well, but, let's list out every marketing lead source we can come up with. Honestly, in a very short period of time, we came up with like 91 different things that you can do, to drive leads, both, traditional, all the categories, right? And said, great, we need this. Let's focus on 20 of them, and let's get back to diversifying our business and making sure we're getting the best return on investment. Most importantly, right? For the leads that we've got coming in. And, ensure, everyone wants to talk about organic. And I'll tell you what, we have a strong focus on SEO and organic, but look at the fold. I mean, right now, Google's finally gotten really smart, right? There's nothing above the fold that really is organic. It's all somehow you're paying for it, right? Whether it's ads or LSAs or, so, that's the kind of stuff that I think is important. And what I think is really important, as a franchisor is that's our, we can continue to do the heavy lifting on that side, stay ahead of the curve, and then work with our business. We have business coaches, and saying, hey, here's the best recommendations we can give you now, working with our franchise owners to make sure they're diversified in what they're doing and they're approaching on marketing. So anyway, that's just my take on it. And it's, it's hit home though. I mean, oh my God, if you think of the last 3 years, I mean, yes, who predicted the pandemic? Who predicted what was going to happen? The amazing explosion of stuff that, at least in home service, that happened as we came out of the pandemic. It's amazing. People sit in their house for a few days, stare at walls. The longer you stare at a wall, the more it needs painting. That's all I can tell you. It's like,
you nailed it. And I feel like you really honed in on an amazing idea, right? Which is, you said not putting all your eggs in one basket. And I would say as a technology person, it's someone that would be where I focus, marketing and technology and those types of things that help a business grow. But it really is, we live in a world where things are completely changing regularly. So if you put all your eggs in a Google basket, that would be a difficult thing, right? Yeah. One thing that will never change is the idea that if you can help another business owner help his clients and make his job easier, whether it's making him look good, helping him make an additional revenue stream, whether he just feels better at night, to me, that's evergreen. To me, that's permanent. That'll never change. And that's how you build, if you think of a stool with 4 legs, that's how you build a stool with thousands of legs, right? Is having those partners, those referral partners. And then I also think that you have an opportunity to kind of become part of their audience if you do it right. If you're close enough with them, now they may be in a different place, that audience, where they're thinking maybe in the future, I'll need the painting, right? So you start to introduce people to the brand at different times of the continuum of their life when they might need the painting, but you're doing that through other partners. To me, it's a brilliant strategy. I mean, that is, you need to have that. And then, of course, you've got the social media, you've got search, you've got these concepts of people finding you in front of a screen. We're all looking at screens all day. So clearly, that's an important idea of knowing how best to leverage that. But truly, though, it's a moving target. And what's not moving is what you said earlier. So that's great that they do that. And I would think also just the idea of the business also is very referral driven. So not only from partners, but from the homeowners themselves. So ultimately, the better that relationship can be with, hey, I know a guy that knows, he's also a friend of the other guy that I do business with. Like it feels more like a community to them. So I would think the referrals are increased that way. But in terms of, in terms of helping your brand grow, even, I guess, in terms of your goals, in terms of growth,
right? I
should start with, you're at, did I see 170 units? How many units do you have?
Oh, yeah. We're right there. I think with the upcoming training we have, we'll probably be right at around 175-ish. So
that's an amazing accomplishment right there. So how does that start to look as the president, right? Is there a goal to get lots and lots of to fill every possible territory, or is it more of a considered growth pace that you take? And also, I wanted to also mention it. I lost it for a minute. But as we were talking about partners and things, I know that strategic franchising is also another umbrella, right, over
Absolutely.
Fresh Code. And tell me a little bit about your sister brands and how that also kind of has that similar effect of partnering with other business owners. But yeah, how are you looking at growth? And is it more of a considered, we take our time with growth, or is it something where you have to get prepared to go faster? I mean, how does that look?
I think it's both. I think considered for sure. We want to make sure, going back to the iconic idea, if it was just about numbers, if I said, I just want to be at 1,000 units, I mean, I could guess we could go out on the street corner and hand out franchise certificates to people, right? But that doesn't make our brand iconic. That doesn't make us trusted and loved, right? We might get known, but you got to have all three. So you really want to bring on the right people. We want to bring on people, we want to make sure we're selecting and recruiting the right people. We find that people with a solid business background, coming into this don't necessarily need the painting background. And actually, in some ways, a painting background can be a detriment because there's a way of doing, I'm going to do it the way I've always done it. Well, no, we really want you to think about the business differently. We want you to be thinking about how to market, be an executive. We consider it an executive model, not an absentee model, but an executive model. We want people that want to come in and really run a business. If we think about, where the other brands, so for strategic, we have some really cool sister brands. I mean, and sister and brother brands, we'll call them. But, and it's a really interesting variety. I mean, this is where you realize there's commonality. In fact, the oldest brand in the strategic group is called the Growth Coach. It's actually a coaching model. It's that which is a very different from the home services. Our newest brand, which is Pet Wants, which is a pet nutrition company, group, is fun. We all love puppies and kittens, so it really gives us an opportunity. Actually, it allowed us to start bringing our dogs to work, which was great. And I feed my dogs eat Pet Wants food, right? True Blue, which is actually rebranding itself as your home care ally or your home services ally. There's a handyman component to that, but it's really about, let me help you coordinate all of the things you need for your total house care, really. And so, we partner, actually, True Blue has been a great partner for us. So one of the things is that as we've been growing our national accounts, If for some reason we don't have a fresh coat in a certain area, we also reach out to the True Blue owners. So, what are the benefits of having sister brands? It benefits us because if we can take care of our national accounts partner, that's a benefit to us in that relationship. True Blue, it's manna from heaven. Okay, well, look, this just came from Fresh Coat, right? In fact, our True Blue and Fresh Coat owners probably have the best synergy. We have folks out there in the field that have partnered up on offices, storage, and facilities, because they really, certainly in the handyman side, they may do a little bit of painting, but they don't want to paint. When it comes to any project that's larger, we love it. Also it helps us because, almost every time we're going in to do any kind of paint project, there's usually handyman type things that have to go with that, whether it's, wood repair and such. So there's some synergies there for sure. Another brand of ours, which is totally different, is Caring Transitions, which is really a senior relocation business, which was really pyramided by, their primary is really an estate sale package. So they go in, they help, folks downsize, like either downsize out of a house, or if somebody's moving. Probably the primary piece of that is they're, maybe leaving their home and moving into a facility or moving into a small condo, because, I know as we age, the bottom line is we can't take care of a big house. My dad's 84 and he's still in the house that I grew up in. And, I think the only reason he's not moved out is it just seems overwhelming to try and move all that stuff. I used them. When I moved here, I relocated from Texas, and my local Caring Transition, it was awesome because I was having to do this remotely, and Brandon just took care of everything at the house for me. I'm telling you what, it was amazing. Again, I'm a super heavy user of home services type businesses, but so one of the benefits there is, we do get our owners together. We do it, whether it's a conference, it allows us to share services. So the beauty of it for me is, like, for instance, I have a much more robust financial and legal team than I would if I was a standalone brand. That means I can take, money that would normally have to get invested there, and I can invest it more into the Fresh Coat system, right? More into technology, more into other, our marketing team. Even though we have team, our team is solely Fresh Coat focused when I talk about like our marketing team, our coaches, but we learn from each other. Like our marketing team can go over and talk to Caring Transitions and Pet Wants and say, hey, what are you guys seeing? And we share ideas across the brand. So, and even for me as a president, if I have, 4 other presidents to bounce things off of and to share ideas with and to learn from and steal shamelessly from, as we say. I said, what's the term R&D stand for? Rip off and duplicate. It's perfect.
Franchising. That's a great way to put it. Right? It's
what we do, right? It's awesome. It's we're silly if we don't utilize, great ideas from everywhere. Right. So, that's,
I love that, by the way, R&D. Well, no, that's brilliant. And we just talked about, the way you diversify and solidify or strengthen a brand strategically, or a collection of brands. Right. And, you mentioned True Blue and Caring Transitions, and I am familiar, and it is like you're expanding that painting audience, right? Because these folks are in different situations, but painting could be one of the top things they need to knock out, one of the things, right? And so it's just a great set of partners, right? Built right into your overall brand, which is great, awesome. Or your company. Yeah. So I understand that. Well, listen, it's been great having you. I want to wrap up with one question. As the president of Fresh Coat, I know every day you're faced with challenges. You're running teams. You're everything we just talked about, right? Starting to stay a couple steps ahead, doing the R&D, right? Mm-hmm. But tell me, is there a mentor? I know you mentioned McDonald's earlier, was a good early experience, but is there a mentor or a book or anything you really look at as a principle or set of principles that have guided you and helped you guide your teams?
Wow. Just over the course of all these years, I will tell you that, I've had many mentors, and I think I've been blessed in that I like to reach out and make sure there's somebody I can, sound off of. But, early on, I mentioned I had a really great mentor, and to this day, I hear his voice in my head, it was good basic leadership stuff. And that was my early days at McDonald's. Right now, though, I tell you, as I've evolved into president, I think one of the things that we're doing is we're working with, it's really bringing in an outside coach, and I'm a believer in that. I think, so we're, right now we're working with a coach who is really brings in what's known as the Pinnacle system, which is very similar to Traction. Traction was a great read. I've always enjoyed. There were a lot of principles of that I've incorporated just uniquely, but so that's the latest thing that we're doing. I think it's I think it's always good to have somebody an outsider take a fresh look at your brand. And interestingly, the coach we're working with is one of my former franchisees from another system who evolved into coaching. And, I just always had a tremendous amount of respect for her. And she, I thought, yeah, in fact, it's funny that the roles have turned. Going back to my original mentor, I said a great piece of advice he gave me years and years ago was that when you're hiring somebody, you should look across the table and think, could I work for this person? And I think what Ed meant at that time was values and all those things. Is this somebody that if the tables were turned, I could work for that person? If so, you're probably hiring at the right level. Yeah. And, so I can remember there have been a couple of times in my careers when I've hired somebody, I thought, wow, this person's so, is so skilled. I mean, sometimes a lot of times leaders won't hire somebody who's sharper than them. I think the lesson I took from that is my job is absolutely to hire people that are way smarter than me, because look, I'm not an expert in marketing. I'm more of there's things I am expert in, but that's maybe not my area. I need to hire somebody who's a lot smarter than me, so that's how have I been successful? I think I've been successful by being very comfortable hiring people that are way smarter than me and or have a lot more experience. I just recently hired a new COO, Wayne Sugar, who actually started in the painting industry. He worked for College Pro. He was one of the founders of CertaPro. I mean, our competitor, right? And I brought in somebody with more experience than me because why wouldn't you, right? I had that opportunity. It was like it fell in my lap, this opportunity. I'm like, oh yes, absolutely, I'm going to hire this person. Anyway, it kind of goes back to I think of that when I think of Leslie because I used to coach her. Now, would I want that person coaching me? Well, yes, because the values and and the comfort level, that instant, I trust you and I know you can give me an honest answer and tell me when I'm, no, Terry, you're heading in the wrong direction. There's a sign in my, and this will be one. You say you wanted to know, is there something that hallmarks? There's a sign sitting over here next to my desk, and it says, "It doesn't matter how fast you run if you're going the wrong direction."
When well, you nailed a bunch of things in that whole answer. I was waiting for you to say I hired smarter people because I've heard a lot of really smart people tell me that. So yeah. That is absolutely true. Building teams of really smart, but I love the way you put that about when you're hiring, and obviously it is a certain kind of hiring, but when you're hiring a professional, could I work for this person?
Yeah.
I think that says a lot about you, your humility. You wouldn't be looking at hiring the smartest people in the room if you didn't already have that in your mind, right? Which is an amazing thing. And that is true. Because it would answer some questions if you couldn't do that. Why can't you hire that person if they happen to be more skilled or knowledgeable about the painting side of franchising, right? But that's brilliant. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I will remember that especially when I'm hiring someone. So
you'll hear that voice in your head. I still hear Ed's still sitting on my shoulder and goes, "Would you work for that person?" I'm like, okay,
It's a totally great question too. I mean, it really helps you think through. Do they have all the important things right at the end of the day? So that's an amazing way to look at it. Appreciate that. Well, so before we let the audience go, is there a good website to go and check out Fresh Coat and strategic franchising and anything else?
Sure.
If they're interested.
All the above. We've got certainly for Fresh Coat, our consumer freshcoatpainters.com is on the consumer side, freshcoatfranchising.com if you're interested in looking at the Fresh Coat franchise. And then, of course, strategicfranchising.com also is a great website to look at all the brands. So,
excellent. Well, I appreciate your time today, Tara, and we're going to talk again soon, I hope.
I hopefully we'll see each other or talk again soon. I loved it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.